The global financial system just got rocked as the Greek banks shut down and they begin to impose capital controls. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Just as I predicted, Greece has imposed capital controls in order to stop the flight of their currency leaving the banking system. Let's begin with this right here out of The Guardian. Share prices slumped across Europe on Monday as Greece shuttered its banks for a week following a fateful weekend that has shaken Europe's single currency. So what we have here is obviously that Greece has decided to shut down their banking system, and let's get into the details. The Greek government decided on Sunday night it had no option but to close the nation's banks the following day after the ECB raised the stakes by freezing the liquidity lifeline that has kept them afloat during a 6-month run on deposits. What happened here is basically they had this lifeline, and that was the ELA, and that was allowing them to stay open because as the money was fleeing out of the banks, they had this lifeline like a new fresh supply of blood entering the system. But they basically said, we're going to cut off that blood supply and we'll see what happens. Well, instantly they imposed capital controls. They simply couldn't withstand this any longer. Right here, let's move on to this article out of Sky News. Banks in Greece and the country's stock exchange will be shut all next week in a sign of the deepening financial crisis. So even the stock exchange has to close here. It isn't just the banks. So it's all interconnected. Think about what could happen in the country that you live in, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. The drastic moves come after people rush to withdraw their cash amid panic ahead of the referendum on bailout terms. So you have this referendum that they want to take place, hasn't happened yet, of course, but what that would mean would be that the people of Greece get to decide what they want. Do they want to take some cuts, or do they want to go the other routes? So this right here is, in the interim, we have sort of a chaos that is occurring. Under the controls, there will be a daily limit of 60 euros on withdrawals from cash machines, which will reopen on Tuesday. So imagine that you have 60 euro limit, which may be enough for your daily expenses. But what if something should happen and there is an emergency and you're not able to get that money out of your banking system? What will you do? Well, this is when the chaos begins to happen. And if they do not hurry up on this, there are going to be a lot of very, very upset people. I also want to note further down here, the Foreign Office has issued a warning to British tourists: bring enough cash. And right there, they also at the very bottom says visitors to Greece should be aware of the possibility that banking services, including credit cards and so on, may be interrupted. And that's exactly what the Polish head of state had said as well, saying if you're going to go there, bring extra cash. I covered that here on the channel. And right here out of the New York Times, for many people in Athens, it was a time to prepare for an approaching storm. Right here, they're talking about the waiting in line to withdraw cash hours before they made the official announcement, knowing that they would be, in fact, causing these capital controls to occur. They even said that one bank said they were having technical difficulties. Well, I'm sure that's what they are. Elsewhere, some people had started hoarding gasoline and groceries. We don't know what the new day will bring. So this right here, they begin to become preppers right at the very last second. This is the worst time to become a prepper. You want to have that in advance. What exactly is stopping you from getting some basic food supplies that you'll eat anyway? What about having these things right now? You'll use them, you'll have them, you'll consume them now as it is. Just keep a little bit of extra on hand and you will be much, much better off than many people. Remember, this doesn't have to be from some sort of major financial collapse. Like Greece just being an isolated case at the moment anyway, and they are suffering right here. This could happen to the next country in line, could happen to Spain or Italy or Ireland or even other countries as well. So don't think that it's just one country or that some major event is going to affect the whole world all at the exact same time and you'll realize this and you'll be able to prepare in that time. It's not how it works. Let's move on to what I wrote about in my book very quickly. Just wanted to show you the Money GPS hot point. I've covered this one before. Adam Ferguson's book, When Money Dies, he describes how post-World War I Germans were scrambling to get out of marks and into any asset in order to maintain their value while the prices of everything were increasing rapidly. So this basically just goes to show you that if you hold on to currency, cash, if you have your money in the banking system, you are a victim. All you need to do is put your money into real assets. People are always asking, what's the solution? What's the solution? Real assets are the solution. The most important thing that you could do, have some basic preparatory tools, like a simple amount of food that you would want around the house. Sure, gasoline is great. Some sort of power would be great as well. If not solar, then some sort of hand crank generator. Get anything you can. Let's move on quickly. I don't want to get into that in this video today. After the bailout talks between the left-wing government and the foreign lenders broke down on the weekend, the ECB froze vital funding support to Greek banks, leaving Athens with little choice to shut down the banking system from keeping them from collapsing. That's exactly what I've been saying. And banks are expected to be closed all next week. There will be a daily limit of €60 on cash withdrawals from the machines, which will reopen on Tuesday. Capital controls are likely to last for many months at least. Now think about that right there. You're going to have to deal with this for months. The people of Greece are going to get fed up. They cannot deal with this. You can't live this life here. How are you going to buy any big ticket items if all you can take out is $60? What kind of capital controls are there? How far, how deep will they go? Will mortgages be around? Will people be able to buy their big ticket items? What's going to happen to the real economy if they can't buy these big ticket items? Not that they've been able to buy many in the recent past, but it's very important. What about the future investment into that country? What about tourism in the country? These are very, very interesting things that we'll have to keep an eye on. I'm going to move on here. There are many good things in this article, but just need to move on here to look at these lineups that you can see for yourself. Right here, the Bank of Greece issued a statement today assuring the flow of cash to ATMs will not be interrupted, but reports claim the banks in Greece in the second city have also run out of money. Of course, that's how it's going to be. They're always going to run out of money because there's more people lined up than there is money in the banks. That's just the way it works. So this is just one example. You could see all the pictures online here. Let's move on to the last thing to connect this all together. This is out of the Telegraph. The world will be unable to fight the next global financial crash as central banks have used up their ammunition trying to tackle the last crises, the Bank of International Settlements has warned. That's the biz. They're considered the central bank of central banks. And just to note here, this is not me saying this, but even though I've quoted this in countless interviews, I quoted it in my book many times. I have also mentioned it probably about 500 times on this channel. They did the low interest rates, they did the QE, they have no other options. The so-called central bank of central banks launched a scathing critique of global monetary policy in its annual report. The Biz claimed that the central banks have backed themselves into a corner after repeatedly cutting interest rates to shore up their economies. The low interest rates in turn have fueled economic booms, encouraging excessive risk-taking. That's exactly what's happened. Look at all the derivatives. Look at all the bailouts that have occurred. Booms have then turned to bust, which policymakers have responded with even lower rates. When you go negative on the rates, what are you going to do? You're going to skew everything permanently forever. There's no turning back from this except a global financial collapse. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. And you can actually flip through the book. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, which allows you to flip through the book and see if you like it for yourself. Take care.